Okay. So this is what to focus on for exam 3 or test 3, whatever. So I don't want you to study everything that you've done since test 2, so I'm trying to get you to save some time here. So the first thing is be able to find a vertex of a parabola. For example, if it's in this kind of form, vertex would be the opposite of that number h, right? Comma, whatever that k is. So if they give it to you like this, make sure you're able to just write down hk. That would be your answer. Just remember, whatever's here will be opposite. So if it's positive, put minus. If it's minus, then put positive. Okay. Make sure you're able to find the vertex in this form, or this is called standard form. Or if it's given something like this, let's see. Let me get you an example real quick. An easy one, not a crazy one. Something like this guy. X squared minus 2x plus 3. So this time I'll use some actual numbers. So you can use your formula, or you can graph it and then determine the vertex. So vertex formula, right, would be negative b over 2a, comma, the function at that value, negative b over 2a. So remember, the formula for standard or standard form should be ax squared plus bx plus c, right? So the x value, or the h, right? This is h and k here, technically, would be negative b over 2a. So h will be negative, and it's built in there, negative 2 over 2 times 1. So that will be negative 1, right? And then once you find that, k will be the function at 1. So you just plug in 1 and see what happens. Plug in 1 to here. Then you'll get 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 3, which will give you 2. So the answer would be 1 comma 2. Okay, so those are 2 different ways I'll ask the question. You don't have to do it either way. If you want to graph it and just find it, that's fine too. But I'm giving you the method to find it for any type. Okay. So any questions on this first 2 ideas? So you have at least 2 questions like this.
Question: if it says negative or minus 2x, you said the sign changes for h at what point?
Oh, you're talking about this first example?
Oh, I guess those are separate. Oh, okay, because that's a standard form, and then the other one is the.
Yeah. So one's in standard and one isn't. I think the other form's called. Shoot, I always forget too.
Oh, well, that's okay. No worries. So only on the standard form is when H, the sign changes.
Yeah, when it's factored this way. So when the square is completed and you have it in this form,
Yeah.
you can just straight up read the vertex from the equation. If it's not in that form, I think it's also called vertex form. If it's in standard, then use this idea.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. But you could technically graph both of them. Of course, this is a general one, right? But your question will have numbers. So you can graph both of them separately and then just find it if you have a graphing calculator or some another method, okay? Oh, shoot, the sun's coming in. Does that make sense? Or?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that's probably the first 2 or 3 questions right there. Number 2. Be able to find X. Oh, excuse me. X-intercept, Y-intercept. If they exist. If they don't, then you'll say they don't exist. Okay. So for example, let's see, maybe we can use that last one to help us out. Yeah, let's use that guy. For example, find the X and Y intercepts of this equation here, this function. So what you can do is try to factor it if it is factorable. And if it isn't, most likely there is no x-intercept. You can also graph it and see if it touches the x-axis. The y-intercept is the easy one. So for the y-intercept, all you got to do is plug in 0 and see what happens. Right, so 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 3 is going to be 3. So the 0 of 3 is the y-intercept as a point. They might ask you it's just a value. Like in the questions, they might just say, is it 3 or is it something else, right? Excuse me. For x-intercept, you would attempt to factor, but let me show you right away. This is not going to factor because of this. Oh, it's a weird function here. There we go. If I were to graph this guy, you would see that it would be pointless to try to solve it. You see how it doesn't touch the x-axis? So there is no x-intercept. So if you try to find them, right, you would get imaginary numbers. So you could try to use a quadratic formula on this guy. And then if you did that, right, the way you find it is by doing this. So let's pretend we didn't know, right? We would do this, set equal to 0, and then find out there is no real number that makes this 0. Therefore, there are no x-intercepts. So whenever you're not able to solve it or factor it, well, I shouldn't say factor, because if you can't factor, the first thing you should try would be the quadratic formula. But if you do the quadratic formula and you notice inside the square root, you're going to get a negative, then yeah, you shouldn't keep going. But if you graphed it, either by hand with a calculator or whatever, you would see that it would be pointless to solve. Okay. So you'd only have one answer. You guys cool on the second part here? Okay, so next question. So be able to find all of these ideas in one question. Be able to find vertex, x-intercept, y-intercept.
Could you move the page up a bit, please?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Y-intercept and the axis of symmetry. Yeah, there's two ends. Okay. All right, so I'll give you a, well, doesn't matter. Yeah, let's say you had this question. So for example, let's say y is equal to x squared plus 2x minus 3. So if you complete the square, I'm going to skip this step real quick. Well, no, I guess I should show it. Remember we said you make a space here, right? And then you got to figure out what is the special number that will complete the square in order to factor it. So to find that number, you take half of the b term and you square it. Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is still 1, so you're going to add 1. But I can't just add it. I need to subtract it because I'm not doing both sides, right? Plus 1 minus 1, so they're still balanced. So now this first part will factor like this. This first 3 terms factors into this. Negative 3 minus 1 is a negative 4. So vertex is right there now, right? It would be negative 1, negative 4, axis of symmetry is going to be x equals to negative 1. It's always this guy, whatever the x value is for the vertex. That's the axis. If I plug in 0, right, you can tell y-intercept is going to be -3. X-intercept will be factor the original, right? If you set it equal to 0 for the x-intercepts and factor the original, you will find out where the intercepts are. It should be x minus 1, x plus 3. So the intercepts would be 1 and -3. And I'll show my work here for the y-intercept. Plug in 0, which will give you -3. So that's where this came from. And these two is when you solve this, right? Okay. Do you guys have any questions on how we did all of these at the same time? If I was too fast, let me know. I can go over anything here. Okay. You have a couple of questions that just tell you to graph. I'm going to skip those questions. You're allowed to use a graphing calculator or a graphing utility. Has anyone been able to use the Desmos within Lockdown Browser or no? Okay, there's some yes, I guess. Be able to find the max or minimum of a parabola. Okay. So let's give you a simple example here. Let's say they give you some profit function. They want to know what's the maximum profit. 0.004 x squared plus 2.8x minus 300. So one thing you could do is graph it and then just pick out the parabola, or you can use your formula, right? Since it's a negative on the x squared, it's going to be opening downward. So there should be a maximum. So max exists. To find the vertex, I'll put a note here. At the max. Okay. Oh, shit. That doesn't make sense. Max exists at vertex. So just find the vertex. So the h value, right, or k or x value, whatever, however you want to think about it, would be negative b over 2a, which will be negative 0.04 over, oh, sorry, negative b is not that. That's a lie. negative 2.8 over 2 times negative 0.004. So this is a calculator question, right? See what that is. So negative 2.8 divided by 2 times negative 0.004. So it'd be about 350. Okay, so once you find the x value, plug it in. So k is equal to the function at that value, right? So that'll be negative 0.004 times 350 squared plus 2.8 times 350 minus 300. Let's just plug it in. And we should get the y value. So that is 190. So the maximum profit happens at 350 units or items, whatever we're making or selling, and you get $190 or whatever. Right, so this is X and this is Y units. Do you have any questions on 4? Okay. The next one, just be able to determine the degree of a polynomial given a graph. Remember how we said depending on the shape of the graph, it'll be odd or even, and depending on how many times it has touches the 0 x-axis, then it'll give you different hints. So you'll look at the picture and determine what degree is it. We did a few of those in our notes. Let's go to the next one. Be able to graph quadratics or any polynomial. So on the exam, when they ask you to graph, you basically got to pick multiple choice. So I don't need to see work on these questions because you just got to pick the correct picture, okay? So use whatever you want to pick the correct option. Doesn't matter. Okay. 7. Given a graph, be able to find vertical and horizontal asymptotes. Okay. given a function, be able to do the same thing. Vertical and horizontal asymptote. You guys have any issues with 7 or 8? Okay, let me give you a quick picture since I can't tell. So if you give something like this, if you're given a graph, it's pretty easy to tell. So let's see what the dotted lines are. I can't cross them. So the vertical asymptote would be x equals to 2, x equals to negative 2. Those are the two. Okay, and if you see one going across, well, that's the horizontal. So when you have a graph, it's no big deal. But if you're given a function, let's go ahead and do that one here. Example. Find vertical and horizontal of f of x equals to 3x plus 1 over x squared minus 4. Let's just do this random question. So then we had 3 different cases for horizontal. We said if the degree on the bottom is bigger, then the horizontal is 0. And then to find the vertical, you just got to set the bottom to 0. So the procedure for vertical is setting this to 0. So as we already saw in the picture, right? We already knew this answer. But if you didn't have the picture, this is how you find it. Horizontal, I gave you a PDF that showed the 3 different cases as to how to find them. Okay, so you have to depend on the question. All right. But on the picture, you can see there's y equals 0 is the horizontal. So you'll have a question where they give you a picture, give you a function, and then they'll tell you graph this with the asymptotes or whatever. But really, you just got to pick the multiple choice, the correct answer. So as long as you are able to graph them, that one should be no problem. But these will require a little bit of work if you don't have a picture. Show the shape of the graph. Okay. You will have some graphs about, here, let me go to the next page. Be able to identify an exponential graph. So basically, they're going to give you a graph of an exponential, and you got to determine, okay, which one is it? So just look at the graph and plug in some points and see which one matches up. Or you can graph all the answer choices and see which one's the right one. However you want to do it. And you'll have the same thing for logarithms. Okay. Given a function that represents growth, determine how much you have at any given time. So for example, you remember how we did those bacteria questions? They asked, after 5 hours, how much bacteria do you have? You just plug in 5. So that, you'll have something like that on the left for, that's what I'm trying to say here. You just plug in the number, okay? So if it's like infection spreading, and they ask what happens in 16 days, well, you plug in 16. So it's just a calculator question. Nothing really to do there. Okay. Now let's take a short break. We'll finish up. There should be a total of 25 questions on your exam, by the way. But let's stop here and come back at 7:15, okay? Okay. Let's pick a random question here. So 2 months ago, you had 3 mice. You now have 18. Assuming this growth continues, find the exponential model y equals y naught e to the kt, and then find how many mice, how many mice you have 1 year from now. X, we'll say, is in months. Okay? They have to tell you. Otherwise, yeah, it'd be weird. So we initially started with 3 mice. So y naught is going to be 3. And then they said 2 months later, you had 18 mice. So that is a point, right? Where it's t and y of t. If it's written as a function, let's just go ahead and do that because we do more function stuff. Y of t. Okay. Okay. So we need to find k because we already have y naught. And once you find k, you can plug in some number or whatever to find the question you ask. So currently we have y equal to, or y of t equal to 3 ekt. So plug in 218 to solve for k. So 18 equals 3e to the 2k. So I plugged in 2 for the t, and set equal to 18, right? That's what this point means. Okay. So now we'll solve for k. So divide both sides by 3 gets us to what? Let's go ahead and show the step, right? That gets us to here. Once we get here, we can use ln to cancel the e. So ln of both sides will give me 2k. So that means that dividing both sides by 2 will give me k. So k is approximately ln 6, well, actually equal to, but that is approximately something on your calculator. ln 6 divided by 2 is 0.8959. We'll round it there. Okay. So plug in the k. So now we have y of t equal to 3 e to the 0.8959 t. So that's the model. So this is the, we'll call it part A. This is part A. Okay. Part B will be just plugging in the number they're asking for. So a year later would be plugging in 12, because that's 12 months, right? So 3e to the 0.8959 times 12 is approximately something. So go back to your calculator, plug it in. Let's see, go ahead and do it over here. That'll be 3e to the 0.8959 times 12. There we go. So 14, 0. Wait, that's way too many. Let me double check this. Yeah, it's not wrong. Jeez, that's a lot of mice. Sorry, when I see ridiculous results, I always gotta check myself. Like, is this real? But yeah, if this growth continues, the mice will keep exploding, and eventually you'll have tons of mice. But this is of course, these models assume, right, that there is resources and space, etc., for them to grow like this. So in a perfect world, this would happen to you if you had 3 mice, right? But in reality, like, where the heck would you put these mice? Would you feed them all? Would they be attacked by predators? Like, I don't know. In biology or higher level science, we have more complicated models that model prey versus predator, And then they also incorporate resources and space on the land, etc. But we're not going to worry about all that. But I just want you to know why that seems crazy. Anyway, so you'll have a question where you need to find the y naught and the k. And they may ask you to plug in some number. Okay, do you guys have any questions on that problem there? Okay, so over here this part was finding k, by the way. Okay. All right, then we'll move on. The next bullet point will be 12. You'll have where you're going to give the definition in those examples. I said change a logarithmic expression to an equivalent exponential expression. So you have to do this backwards and forwards, right? So 13 will be the same thing, just the other way around. Change exponential to log. So for these, use the definition from the examples. There's not much to do there. If you follow the definition, you're basically just plugging in numbers. Okay. You will need to use the change of base formula on something like this. Let's say use calculator to find log 8 of 36.8. Log 8 is not on your calculator, so you would have to use your change of base first, and then you plug it in. Okay. Solve. Well, there should be about 2 of these. Solve 2 exponential equations. Let me give you a bunch of those examples. I think it was on last Tuesday. Forget. Okay, and then you'll have at least 3 or so. So 3 log equations. Okay, so that's pretty much your whole test. Like it did a bunch of these in your notes. I'm gonna skip that for now. But do you guys have any questions or concerns about test 3?
So on the Respondus browser, when we're taking the test, they usually ask for an ID.
Right.
I haven't known what we're supposed to put there.
Oh, they just want you to flash the camera with your ID or student ID, either way. That's all they're asking for.
What if we don't have that yet?
You have neither?
No.
The regular ID is fine, or driver's license, or.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other questions? Currently it's due Friday night. You guys seem to be cool with that. If not, let me know. We can change it to Sunday. Is Friday enough time? All right. So Friday it is. October 2nd, 2020. Okay. All right, guys. You got any other possible questions or concerns? If not, we'll stop here. That's all I have for you. Is I want to throw a bunch of new stuff at you. If you have no questions, you're welcome to head out. And if you do, please stay and ask them. On Thursday, we'll start new stuff.
Could you go over maybe an example? You noted as number 5, be able to determine the degree of a polynomial given a graph.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
So I think there's a few examples on my notes, but I know when I was going through my homework, those specific ones were
A little weird.
kind of, yeah, they were just, I was getting stuck on them.
Let me go ahead and open the homework and pick a random one because I don't have any specific questions on me. Let me find one. Shoot, I forgot to mention. By the way, are you going into the next part, 1325?
Yeah, I'd like to take your class 1325, but I don't know if I'll be able to do, I want to do flex for next semester for sure, but I don't know if I could do flex the 2nd or the 1st. I still have to look at my schedule.
Oh, you don't know if it fits your schedule that you're saying?
Yeah, because isn't there like a first half of the semester and then a second half, right?
Right. So we're getting close to the end of this first half.
Yeah.
So Flex 2 starts in like 3 weeks, I think. I gotta double check the exact time, but if enough people, right now there's only 3 people registered for part 2, which starts as soon as this one ends. So it'll be the same time and maybe the same people, but if not enough, if people don't register in time, they're gonna close it and cancel it, so it'd be gone.
Oh.
So if you're interested, I would register as soon as you can, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Are you gonna have a class? So what would that be? Not fall, but what is that? Spring is next, right?
You talking about part 2?
Yeah, for the part 2, because I don't know that I'll be able to take another class until after December, which is the end of Flex 2.
Oh, I see. I think I might be doing mainly engineering and calculus next semester. I'm not going to be doing any business math.
Gosh, okay.
But I'm sure somebody will be doing it. It just won't be me.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a shame. I really like the way you did the class. Well, I'll look at my schedule to see if I can.
Yeah, just let me know. It's no pressure.
Thank you.
Do you remember what section it was that had the polynomial stuff? I'm trying to remember.
Let me see, because I put like a big star on it, and I put like I need help. 3.5.
3.5. Oh, there it is. Polynomial functions. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah, so it's like the first question that pops up. So here, let me show it to you. I don't know if you, let me see if you can see it. Do I hit the help me solve this? Are you able to see the part coming out?
Yeah, it just came on right now.
Okay. So you have a question just like this, where you see how it has this shape. So when you see this, so it kind of looks like a parabola, right? So it has like a U or W kind of shape. So whenever you see that, you should think, oh, it's got to be even. So right away, I would say it's got to be the 4. Since I don't have another even number, I would probably automatically say 4 because of that.
Because it's going upward, or because?
Because of this shape.
Okay.
See, let me go back to the calculator. So just have more pictures here. So like if you had a quadratic function, right? We know what a parabola looks like. Where's that next? Right. Then if you had a, let's see here. What the heck? That's a weird looking X. I'm fat fingering it. Okay, 4 x to the 6. So here are all the shapes. Maybe Desmos would have been faster, but whatever. So that's the x squared one. See how it's the x to the 4th is still like a U kind of thing. So they're all going to have this kind of shape. Now, even if you add extra terms, so let's go back to the 4th one. So let's say I had, I don't know, some random stuff, plus 2x cubed plus x squared, sorry, ignore that, plus x plus 1. So I'm just making up numbers here. Hopefully it comes out. If not, I'll have to switch to Desmos if it's too zoomed in. Yeah, see how it has kind of this weird W shape? So it's still even, so it has that general parabolic shape. So when that happens, you would say it's got to be an even power. So go back to our question. You kind of see that shape, right?
Right.
It has that parabola thing going on.
Okay.
So right away you'd say it's got to be 4. If there was another even choice, then you have to eliminate it. So then the other thing is using this idea. I think I wrote this down in your notes. I said, remember that the total number of peaks and valleys on the graph, right? Of n is at most n minus 1. So we have 1 valley, 1, 2, 3. So 2 valleys and 1 peak. So that's 3 of them. So at most I should have n minus 1. So if n is 3, then that means the degree has to be 4. You see what I mean?
Okay, so it's basically whatever the number of peaks and valleys together, we could technically just say +1, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be 1 degree less. So the actual degree of the whole thing will be 1 less than the number of peaks and valleys.
Got it.
So once you have that information, you should be able to pick the right choice. So we already had enough to pick 4, but now we have enough to prove it at this point using this little idea here.
Okay. Got it.
All right. So is there any other questions you had, or?
I think that was it. I just was like getting, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I was kind of guessing on those, and thankfully, like, you know, it gives me like like one chance to get it right. And so the second chance I was getting it right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I did want to ask you, you sent an email about seeing the grades for the tests, but I didn't know where exactly to go and see that.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. If you go to My Labs and you hit Gradebook, your last name is Corres, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so let me click your stuff and share it with you. So here we go. So currently it's a good estimate. It has all your, so exam 2 is right there and exam 1's here. So if you go to grades, you can say, yeah, I only want to look at the tests. Well, not those tests, but exams. So the offline exams is the ones you want to look at, because we're doing our exams inside of Canvas. So I'm porting the grades over here.
Oh, okay.
And your homework grade is your overall grade here. But overall, so far, this is assuming that the rest of the exams are about the same and all your homework is perfect, but still a good estimate. But yeah, here's all the homework grades so far.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it looks like you're doing great. Homework grade is 95, exam grade is 96.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right.